In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a 140 jungle tune like this. To make a track like this, we're going to need some really nice drum sounds, so I'd like to thank today's video sponsor, Ghost Syndicate, for sending over their Object Sample Pack. This pack contains everything you'll need for making 140 jungle, and if you like the sounds that you hear in today's video, make sure you grab it from the link in the description. So let's have a listen to some of these drum samples. Wow. Quite like 26 actually, so let's bring that in. I'm going to put the tempo to 140 BPM, and let's find a snare. So I'm going to go with 18, it's just kind of a minimal like rim shot type one. And what I want to do is make this pattern. I'll show you what I mean. Right, I'm going to get rid of these MIDI tracks. Let's have a listen to some of this percussion. With each one you've got a couple of varieties, so you can see you've got 03 perk V1, 03 perk V2. So I'm going to go with this one, and let's have a listen with the kicks and snares. If we go back to the one shot section, here we've got these shuffles, so let's have a listen to some of these. So a shuffle, basically, it's like 2 hits in one sample, so each one has like a 2-hit thing, like a chick. Alright, this one's got 4 hits, so it's like a chicka chicka. So after the snare, I'm going to put it there. And then maybe again. So obviously the percussion already has shuffles in, and then I've just added some extra shuffles to sort of reinforce it. So here's how the 4-bar loop of drums sounds. Let me just have a listen to this top loop. Just going to put an EQ8 onto this percussion layer and then just have a look what the spectrum is saying. So the cool thing about this sample pack is you can see that the EQing has kind of been done for you. If I play this and just have a look at this low end region here, you can see that there's very little going on, which indicates to me that these samples have been kind of pre-EQ'd to make sure there's no sub bass in the percussion. Alright, so now that I've got a kick, a snare, this percussion layer and these shuffles, it's time to group them together. So I'm just going to call that kick, snare, perk, and shuffle. And I'm just going to click the top one, hold down shift, click the last one, and then command and G to group it all together, and I'm going to call that drums. Let's have a listen to some more of these samples and see if we can sort of get a bit of a chord structure together for this tune. So I'm going to go into tonal and let's have a listen to some of these sounds. Alright. Let me go with synth stab E minor, and I'm just going to grab the simpler, put that into the project, and then go back to that sample, synth stab E minor, and put that in there. And I'm just going to turn on warping, which is going to keep that timing, because you can hear that sort of delay that's going on. That's going dun 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 dun. What we want to do is make sure warping is on so that any note that you play is always going to have the same timing of the delay. Alright, let me put in some notes here. I'm just going to use the piano roll to put the notes in. So highlight this section here, Shift Command and M to create a MIDI clip. And I'm just going to draw in a note there. Alright, I'm feeling like the kick is quite strong. In fact, everything's a bit loud, so I'm just going to turn down all of these volumes here. Alright, sounding nice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cheat a little bit by using the same MIDI clip again. So if we go to Instruments, Simpler, put that in, and choose the next sample, which you can hear is very similar, but it's just slightly different to give us a variation, right? The next trick is to hold down Alt and then just drag the MIDI clip down to the other MIDI track, and now it sounds like this. And don't forget to turn on warping, as I said before, to keep the timing of that delay. So this is what happens when you don't have warping on. Listen to the delay. So that's why you need to turn on warping, so that each repeat of the delay is in perfect time with the project. So now we've got these variations, so here's one of them. And then at a different part of the track it can go. Alright, now that we've got those two instruments in there, it's time to add some bass. So I'm just going to add another sampler, and then let's go into the bass folder and have a listen to some of these. How about this one? One thing you can do is, if you feel like this bass note isn't long enough, you can actually make it go on for as long as you want with looping. So what you want to do is just turn on looping here, and you'll see it all goes blue. And then we want to say, how much do you want to loop? Not all of it. I don't want to loop the start. In fact, I want to start it around here. And what it does is it plays the first part as normal, and then when it gets to this section it just loops it, and then it essentially sounds like it'll go on forever. So that's just a little trick that I wanted to show you to make any bass note go on for as long as you want. Now, let's have a listen to our tune and figure out the notes for this bass line. If you feel like there's not enough growl to the respace, you can always put a bit of distortion on it. So just go into your audio effects, grab, for example, the saturator. I'm going to keep looking for some other sounds. I quite like this synth lead F, but I'm not even going to put it into a sampler. I'm just going to put it straight in the project, and let's have a listen. I'll just turn it down a bit. Now that we've got a few different elements, I'm going to start to do a bit of tidying up. So we've got these two, which are kind of, I don't know what to even call them, to be honest, so I'm just going to call them Synth 1 and Synth 2. We've got this one, which is the Reese, and then we got this one, which is another synth, so why not just call that Synth 3? Now, the Reese goes at the top of all of them, and in fact it's going to get its own little group called Bass. And then these three synths, they all go into a group called Instruments. So for short, I'm just going to put Instrum. So it's just, as you can see, it's just a case of building up a load of different instruments within a 4-bar loop, and then eventually we're going to turn this into an arrangement. But first, I'll just have a listen to a few more instruments and see if we can add some more before we start to arrange it. So I'll just keep listening. Alright, let me try this pad, and I'm not sure if it's going to work, but sometimes it's just about trial and error, so you just have to try. So right, what I'm going to do with this pad is just like pile effects onto it. So first of all, we're going to go with the EQ8, and I'm going to take out the top and bottom. So it's just this middle bit that's left. Next, I'm going to get the hybrid reverb, put that on there, and I'm going to have quite a high decay time. In fact, the default is 3.5 seconds, and I'm going to try it like that. I've just put it onto a hall, and you've got all these different halls, so you can try the long synth hall. Sounds like it was made for it, you know? When it comes to reverb, you don't really want to send any low end to your reverb. So luckily with the hybrid reverb, you've got this EQ section. So what you do is you just click this EQ tab, and you've got this sort of high pass filter which you can move along. And if you drag upwards and downwards, it actually changes the slope of the EQ as well. Don't know if you knew that, but you can just try and make it so that it's only really anything above 1K that'll go through to the reverb like that. That makes it sound a lot less muddy, especially if you're using these long decay times. So anyway, let's hear how that pad sounds with the others. And with the other synth. If you want to, you can experiment with getting really narrow with the EQ so that it's just a tiny little narrow band in the middle of the frequency spectrum. Obviously, you only really do that if you've got a lot of different instruments playing at the same time and they all occupy these different frequencies and you need to slot them in with each other. One thing you can do is if you've got this respace that's just going on and on and on, you might want to try an alternating pattern with an 808. So if I go into my instruments and get a simpler and then go to my 808s folder. Right, so I'm going to create a MIDI clip for the 808s, and all you need to do is just highlight a section like this, press Shift Command and M, and then find your note. So I think it's around here. So one thing you can do is an alternating pattern where you've got Reese 808, Reese 808. And since they are very, very subby and you can't really hear them on smaller speakers, it might be best to put a little bit of saturation on there as well. So I'll just go into Audio Effects, Saturation, put that on, crank down the output, crank up the drive. So I'll just drag the 808 into the bass folder. So now we've got 2 different types of bass, a few different types of instruments, and our drums group. All right. So I'm going to save it here, and I think it's time for us to make our arrangement. When it comes to doing the arrangement, it can take a couple of hours and sometimes there's a lot of trial and error. So instead of making you sit through all that, I'm just going to show you the finished track and I'll show you some speeded up time-lapse footage of me doing the arrangement. So here it is. Here's the finished 140 jungle tune. And if you've enjoyed this, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials like this one. Thanks again to Ghost Syndicate for sponsoring today's video, and if you like the sounds that I used in today's tune, you can grab the sample pack from the link in the description. If you want to learn how to make liquid drum and bass, check this video here, and if you want to learn how to make jungle, it's that one there. I'm DJ Grace, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.